Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're plunging into a really fascinating set of source material, a deep dive into the 2021 Chinese tech industry top 10 news.
That's right. We're using an IT journalist's analysis here, basically looking at what Chinese media itself highlighted as the biggest tech stories of that year.
And for you listening, understanding this landscape, especially during what the source calls a period of pretty fundamental change in China, well, it offers some incredibly valuable insights.
Definitely. Whether you're in business, academia, or honestly just curious about global tech trends, this is important stuff.
Absolutely. And one theme that the source says runs through almost this entire list is China's big shift, right? Moving from that super high-speed growth
Towards what they're calling stable growth, yeah.
Okay.
And a big driver, the source notes, is demographics, the working age population shrinking, that demographic dividend kind of disappearing.
Right. So that economic shift is the backdrop for, well, pretty much everything we're going to talk about. It affects the tech sector, regulation, how things are reported.
Exactly. It's the underlying current.
Okay, so let's dive into this countdown. We'll look at each key event, unpack not just what happened, but why it was considered so important in China at the time and, what hints it might give us.
Sounds good. All right, kicking off the list at number 10.
Number 10. Gree Electric's 22-year-old secretary becomes an online sensation. Now, this sounds almost like gossip, doesn't it? But the source treats it seriously.
It does, yeah. Because you've got Dong Mingzhu, who's this incredibly respected 67-year-old chairwoman of Gree Electric, massive air conditioner maker.
Right? And then her new secretary, Meng Yutong, who's just 22, barely out of university.
And the big moment was at this manufacturing summit. Dong Mingzhu introduces Meng Yutong and basically says she plans to train her as the second Dong Mingzhu.
Implying she's a potential successor at 22.
Exactly. And that alone set the internet buzzing. The source even mentions, wild speculation, like was she being considered as a daughter-in-law? Just shows the fascination.
But here's the bit that really caught my eye from the source. Meng Yutong didn't just stand there. She impressed people with her poise and then performed a TikTok dance.
Yeah, right there at the summit. And apparently Jack Ma himself was there, filming her on his phone, whistling. The source paints quite a picture.
Wow. So what happened then?
Well, her online profile just exploded. Over 1 million followers on Douyin, which is China's TikTok. And interestingly, the source notes, she wasn't just posting dances. No, she was sharing thoughts on work, industry, society, coming across as, wise beyond her years.
Okay, so why does this make the top 10 tech news? What's the significance?
The source sees this as symbolic. It represents a real trend they were seeing in Chinese tech founders looking for younger leaders.
Really? Like actively seeking them out?
Yeah, aiming to maybe step back themselves by age 50 or so. They see youth and fresh perspectives as vital in this super fast-paced industry. Meng Yutong's sudden fame sort of highlighted this new generation potentially stepping up.
Interesting. Okay, moving on. Number 9. Mixi Bingcheng's brainwashing divine song. This sounds fun.
Oh, it was huge. Basically, this drink chain, Mixu Bingcheng, launched a promotional campaign with this incredibly simple, catchy theme song.
A parody of, Susanna.
Exactly. And it just went viral, like completely viral. Everyone was calling it the brainwashing divine song.
Was it just luck or planned?
Oh, definitely planned. The source credits a consulting firm, Huayuwa. It was a very deliberate campaign designed to leverage specific platforms.
Like which ones?
They started on Bilibili, the video site that's huge for parodies and remixes, kind of like Japan's Nikoniko Douga.
Right, okay. Smart place to start for user content.
Exactly. And Mixu Bingcheng used Bilibili's own system ActivityWorks, which let users easily make official secondary creations like parodies.
Ah, so they encouraged the remixing but kept some control.
Clever.
Very.
Hey.
And it just exploded. The source mentions tons of user videos, even surprising ones from like Chungking University and a really popular CCTV anchor, Wang Bingbing. That generated massive buzz. And that buzz spread everywhere else.
Onto other social media. But they also had a specific Douyin strategy.
What was that?
They didn't just use official accounts. They got their store staff to post videos.
Store staff? Why?
Because Douyin's algorithm tends to show videos to people geographically close to the poster. So staff posting videos could directly pull in nearby customers using that location info.
Wow. That's combining platform features really smartly.
Totally. And the source flags this as a major takeaway. This campaign became like a template for chain retail promotion.
So combining that Bilibili user-generated buzz with hyperlocal Douyin promotion.
Exactly. A really sophisticated understanding of how different platforms work and amplify each other. A masterclass, really.
Okay, number 8, a shift in retail.
Yeah.
The rush of membership-based wholesale clubs.
Yeah, this was quite sudden in 2021. You saw international names Sam's Club, Metro Plus, Costco, even Carrefour opening new wholesale club formats.
And domestic players, too.
Companies like Foodie, Alibaba's Hema X, Yongui, they all jumped in, especially noticeable in Beijing, the source says.
Why the sudden interest?
Well, context is key, right? The source notes traditional supermarkets were already feeling the pressure from newer models, like community group buying.
Right, those neighborhood buying schemes.
Yeah, and then the pandemic hit. People wanted to make fewer shopping trips. Buy in bulk, maybe.
So wholesale clubs fit that need perfectly. Fewer trips, bigger baskets, often driving there.
Exactly. It aligned with pandemic behavior. And seeing Sam's Club doing well probably encouraged others to pile in.
So it's basically retailers scrambling to adapt to changing habits, pushed faster by the pandemic.
Pretty much. Both the old guard and the tech companies trying new formats.
Does the source think it'll stick?
They sound a bit cautious, actually. They question if the model has long-term legs for everyone jumping in. Food retail in China is just so fluid, constantly changing. It's a tough market.
Okay, number 7, this one's heavier. The Alibaba sexual harassment scandal.
Yeah, this was a big shockwave in August. An Alibaba female employee posted anonymously online.
Right, alleging serious sexual harassment on a business trip to Jinan.
The details reported in the source are disturbing. She claimed a customer assaulted her at a KTV, a karaoke place, and worse, alleged her own male supervisor came to her hotel room repeatedly, trying to force himself on her.
And she felt ignored by HR.
That's what the source indicates led her to post online. It triggered a police investigation and an internal Alibaba probe.
What was the outcome?
The supervisor was fired permanently, banned from being rehired, and the heads of his sales department and the relevant HR group resigned.
Why was this considered such major tech news, though, beyond the awful nature of it?
Because, according to the source, it was so jarring. These humiliating business entertainment practices, people thought those were relics of the past, right?
Especially at a company like Alibaba.
Exactly. A leading tech giant, supposed to be modern, mission-driven, and yet these allegations suggested such practices might still be normalized in parts of the company.
And Alibaba had a reputation for being relatively good for women, didn't it?
Yeah, nearly 50% female workforce, generally seen as avoiding that old-school entertainment culture. So this scandal really damaged their image. It was a stark reminder that even modern tech firms can have deep cultural problems.
Okay, number 6. This is a really sensitive one. The Xinjiang forced labor issue.
Extremely sensitive, yeah. It centers on claims about forced labor involving Uyghurs in Xinjiang, specifically related to cotton harvesting.
The source outlines the different viewpoints here. What's the Chinese government's stance as presented?
They deny forced labor completely. The source says they frame it as fake news manufactured by the U.S.
And what about the online narrative within China?
The source notes some discussion there, posits that the BCI, the Better Cotton Initiative, is attacking Uyghur cotton mainly to promote its own standard.
How does the source itself approach this?
They state clearly that the truth about forced labor is unknown. They mention the U.S. government uses the term suspected forced labor.
And China's denial.
Right. China denies it, but the source points out they haven't allowed independent investigations, which makes verifying anything impossible.
The source adds some anecdotal context, too.
Yeah, something they heard quite a while ago, that cotton harvesting is actually a high-paying, though very tough, job that attracts both Uyghurs and Han Chinese from outside the region. They compare the feel of this story to that Japanese urban legend about tuna fishing boats' hard work, high pay.
There's also context about terrorism mentioned.
Yes, the source references the East Turkestan independence movement and specific terror attacks, Tiananmen 2013, Kunming Station 2014, others in Xinjiang. They say this devastated tourism, making cotton income perhaps even more vital for some Uyghurs.
And this had real business impact, right? H&M.
When H&M announced they wouldn't use Xinjiang cotton due to these concerns, major Chinese e-commerce platforms, Taobao, JD, Pinduoduo pulled H&M products.
The source ends on a note about complexity.
Yeah, highlighting that if the cotton industry suffers because of this international pressure and boycotts, the ordinary Uyghur people who rely on it could be the ones hurt most economically. It's presented as a deeply complex situation with no easy answers.
Okay, moving to number 5. Xiaohongshu's going too far problem. What's Xiaohongshu again?
It's often compared to Instagram, but with e-commerce baked right in. So influencers Wang Hong can directly profit from product sales linked in their posts.
Right. And the going too far problem.
The source describes it as Wang Hong on the platform constantly pushing boundaries to get attention, leading to repeated controversies. Kind of like problematic YouTubers we see elsewhere, maybe?
Any specific examples from 2021?
Yeah, a couple stood out. Early in the year, some Wang Hong posted videos snowboarding in just like bra-like sports tops. Others copied it, and it sparked criticism for being vulgar or overly sexualized.
Even if, by some Western standards, it might seem tame.
Right, the source notes that context. Then later, in September, there was this Buddha lady or Foyuan-style trend.
Taking photos in temples.
Started that way. But it escalated, the source says, to people wearing really revealing clothes, deep slits, sheer lace inside temples. That drew strong backlash for being disrespectful to sacred spaces.
And there's a broader social impact, too.
Yeah, the source points out Xiaohongshu is huge with young women, 20s and 30s, especially for finding those Insta-worthy spots.
So popular locations get swamped.
Exactly. Overrun with people taking photos and apparently often leaving lots of trash behind. It became a noticeable social issue.
So what's the takeaway here?
These controversies really highlight the pressures of that influencer economy, the need for constant buzz, and also the real-world friction that happens when online trends spill over, especially from a platform so focused on lifestyle aesthetics.
Okay, number 4. This is a really big one. Didi's app suspension, right after its New York IPO.
Huge news, yeah. Didi, the ride-sharing giant, lists on the NYSE June 30th. Just 5 days later, bang, app suspended in China.
Pending a cybersecurity review. Allegedly illegal data collection.
That was the official reason given. And when the source was published, that suspension was still dragging on, with talk of Didi maybe even delisting from New York.
What was the immediate impact of the suspension?
Well, new users couldn't download the app or update it. Existing users who already had it could still use it, though.
But the source points to something else as being the real killer blow.
The mini programs, yeah. These are massively popular in China, right? Access through WeChat or Alipay, no need to download a full app. Super convenient.
But they need the main app to function.
They rely on loading the structure from the main app. So with the main Didi app suspended, its mini program became unusable. That's almost like a complete business halt for anyone trying to use it that way.
Wow. Okay, so why did this happen? Data security was the stated reason, but what did Chinese media focus on, according to the source?
The big factor pointed to was regulation of the VIE scheme, variable interest entities.
Right, VIEs. We need to break this down. It seems crucial.
It really is. So China restricts foreign investment in lots of areas, right? Like less than 50% foreign ownership in car companies. And some sectors, like the internet, are basically off limits to direct foreign investment due to information security concerns.
Foreign VCs are invested in Alibaba, Didi, Tencent.
Exactly. How?
Yeah.
Through the VIE structure.
How does the source explain it works?
Okay, so you set up a shell company, just on paper, somewhere like the Cayman Islands or BVI. Foreign investors buy shares in that company.
All right.
Now, that offshore company can't directly own the Chinese company doing the actual business because of the rules.
Right.
So instead, the offshore shell company signs a whole bunch of contracts with the Chinese operating company and its Chinese owners. Contracts covering governance, profits, control. Essentially making the Chinese company operate like a subsidiary.
Even without direct ownership, it's a contractual control thing.
Precisely. It allows foreign money to fund Chinese businesses in restricted sectors. But, and this is key, the source emphasizes its legal status in China is a gray zone.
Not explicitly illegal, but not officially blessed either.
Exactly. And the source suggests China's government often tolerates these gray zones when they're useful.
But regulates them quickly when the downsides seem bigger.
That's the argument. They give examples. Unlicensed phones back in the day, real estate bubbles, shadow banking, mobile payments, online lending, all went through phases of being gray, then regulated.
Interesting perspective. The source pushes back against the idea of it being just chaotic, followed by crackdown.
Yeah, they argue the regulations are often quite precise and prompt, leading to, for China, relatively soft landings. Even when outsiders predict crashes, they see it as a serious, rapid decision-making process.
So why regulate VIEs now, in 2021? What's the connection?
The source links it directly back to that major economic shift, the move to stable growth, the changing demographics.
Yeah.
Regulating VIEs is seen as part of ensuring business activities align with the government's new national strategy.
And tech companies kind of anticipated this, the dual listings in Hong Kong.
Seems like it. Alibaba, Baidu, others listing in Hong Kong while still on U.S. exchanges. The source sees that as hedging against potential VIE issues or U.S. delisting pressures.
So the Didi situation wasn't just about Didi or even just data. It was a signal.
A very public signal, according to this analysis, that the tolerance for the VIE gray zone might be ending, pushing tech companies towards stricter alignment with domestic rules and economic goals.
Which leads us perfectly into number 3. Wang Hong influencers getting hit with massive tax evasion fines.
Yeah, this was another big regulatory story in late 2021. A whole series of high-profile influencers investigated and fined huge amounts.
The source named some big ones. Lin Shanshan Twiley.
And crucially, Wei Ya and Li Jiaqi, the lipstick prince, these were absolute top-tier Taobao live streaming sellers.
Wei Ya's fine was astronomical, wasn't it?
Unbelievable. 1.341 billion yuan. That's like 24 billion Japanese yen. And her accounts on Taobao, Weibo, Douyin, all frozen. Career basically over.
How are they evading taxes? What did the source say about that?
Often, it involved setting up companies and funneling personal income through them, then writing off personal expenses as company costs. The source actually describes this as a pretty common tax-saving strategy for sole proprietors.
So maybe the penalty felt disproportionate.
The source kind of suggests that, that the scale of the punishment for Wei Ya seemed particularly harsh for what might have been seen as aggressive tax planning elsewhere.
And the ripple effects. She employed thousands, right?
Reportedly 2,000 people in her management and e-commerce operations. That kind of fine and ban likely meant huge layoffs, maybe dissolving companies, huge personal asset loss too, obviously.
So why this crackdown? What's the bigger picture, according to the source?
They frame it as a very public demonstration, almost a show trial, reinforcing the government's stance during this economic transition.
How so?
With stable growth, meaning potentially stagnant wages for many ordinary people, the government wanted to show it was cracking down on perceived excessive wealth accumulated by breaking rules, especially among high-income groups like entertainers, influencers, investors.
To manage public discontent. Ensure rules apply to everyone.
Exactly. To show that during this new phase, supernormal profits gained through questionable means wouldn't be tolerated.
And the source expects more of this.
Yes, they predict more tax investigations targeting high-income individuals as part of this ongoing shift.
Okay, shifting gears slightly for number 2. The EV shift, led by Wuling and Tesla, begins. More positive news here.
Definitely. 2021 really felt like the year EV adoption started accelerating significantly in China, and it was driven by two key players at opposite ends of the market.
You had the Wuling Hongguang MINI EV.
Yeah.
Super cheap, right? Around 500,000 yen.
Incredibly affordable, yeah. And then you had Tesla with the Model 3 and Model Y targeting the more affluent buyers.
And sales took off.
Expected to double 2020 levels, the source says. The Wuling MINI EV success was particularly interesting.
Why did it do so well?
The source lists a few reasons. Clear concept, designed as a pure commuter car. Smart engineering using older, proven car tech where possible. Maximizing policy benefits, China's NEV credit system really helped. And perfect timing with the pandemic, making people wary of public transport for short hops.
But it found an unexpected audience, too.
Totally. It became super popular with young women who loved customizing it, using it for fun, not just commuting. A fashion statement, almost.
And Wuling leaned into that.
Brilliantly. The source highlights how they quickly partnered with Pantone for pastel macaron colors, released seasonal editions, did collabs with cosmetic brands, held Wuling girl parties. Really impressive market responsiveness.
So you've got Wuling making EVs accessible to the masses, Tesla grabbing the high end.
And together, they signal that a really broad-based EV transition is kicking off in China, hitting different segments simultaneously.
Okay, that brings us to number 1. The biggest story of 2021 for Chinese tech, according to this source. Tech companies hit with anti-monopoly fines.
This was the overarching regulatory theme, really, impacting all the giants. Alibaba, Tencent, Meituan, Pinduoduo.
Alibaba's fine was the headline grabber, right?
Absolutely massive. 18.228 billion yuan, about 300 billion yen, which was 4% of their 2019 revenue.
And that was specifically for choose one behavior. What is that exactly?
The source explains it as Alibaba essentially forcing merchants on its Taobao platform not to sell their products on rival e-commerce sites like JD.com or Pinduoduo.
And if they did sell elsewhere?
They'd be penalized somehow. Maybe lower search rankings on Taobao, less visibility, making it hard to succeed if you didn't play exclusively by Alibaba's rules.
Now, the source says this kind of thing wasn't entirely new, right? But it was suddenly punished very strictly. Why then?
Again, it ties back directly to that big economic shift, the move to stable growth.
What's the deeper reason the source gives?
The argument is that giants like Alibaba and Tencent had become so dominant, their ecosystems so closed, that it was becoming impossible for new businesses or innovative startups to emerge and challenge them. You couldn't become the next Alibaba because the current Alibaba controlled the playing field too tightly.
They use community group buying as an example.
Yeah. It started small, local, but when the big tech firms like Alibaba and Meituan jumped in during the pandemic, they just used their massive capital to basically crush the startups, leaving the giants in control.
So this anti-monopoly push isn't just about punishing success?
No, the source argues it's about enforcing stricter rules on the dominant players, specifically to create a more level playing field, to allow smaller companies and startups space to compete and innovate.
The source uses an analogy, the theater effect.
Right. It's a common business fable in China, apparently.
Yeah.
Imagine you're in a theater. Row 1 stands up to get a better view.
Okay.
That forces row 2 to stand up just to see. Then row 3 has to stand. Eventually, everyone is standing.
Everyone's more tired, but only row 1 actually got a better view.
Exactly. It illustrates how one dominant player making a move for advantage can force everyone else into costly actions just to keep pace, ultimately exhausting the ecosystem. That's how the source sees things like choose one.
And there's a connection back to the VIEs here, too.
Interesting link the source makes, yeah. They suggest VIEs gave these giants easy access to huge amounts of foreign capital, which enabled them to achieve that market dominance in the first place.
Which the government then saw as maybe unfair competition against domestic firms struggling for local funding.
Potentially, yeah. So regulating VIEs and enforcing anti-monopoly rules are seen as connected parts of the same strategy, fostering fairer domestic competition.
What's the expected outcome of all this regulation?
Less explosive growth from the giants, perhaps. But the source suggests potentially more room for mid-sized companies and startups to grow and maybe become the next big thing.
Which brings us to the relevance for you listening.
Right. The source's advice is, don't just watch the headlines about the big names getting fined. Pay attention to those mid-sized players, the emerging companies. In this new environment, that might be where the real action, the next wave of innovation, comes from.
We have certainly covered a lot of ground there.
We really have. It's clear 2021 was a truly pivotal year, wasn't it? Marked by these huge shifts in regulation, social trends, market structures.
And the big takeaway from this deep dive, pulling together what the source material suggests, it seems to be all about China's economic transition. That move from high speed to stable growth is just fundamentally reshaping the tech landscape.
Yeah, you see regulations tightening, not just randomly, but seemingly aimed at fairer competition, aligning with national goals. And then you have social issues, new consumer behaviors like the EV boom, creating both challenges and, well, unexpected opportunities.
We went through quite a list. Young leaders emerging, viral marketing genius, serious corporate scandals.
Geopolitical tensions hitting supply chains, the Xiaohongshu controversies, the huge regulatory moves against Didi and the VIE structure, the tax crackdown.
And then that fascinating start to the EV transition, with Wuling and Tesla hitting different markets.
Looking at these specifics, why Didi faced challenges, the strategy behind Wuling's success, it gives you a much richer understanding than just reading, say, generic headlines about a tech crackdown.
Yeah, it definitely makes you think, what does this all mean for the future? For innovation, for competition, in such a massive tech market?
And the source really emphasizes that point. Maybe the focus shouldn't only be on the established giants anymore. As China navigates this transition, look at the space potentially opening up for those mid-sized and smaller players.
So here's a final thought, something provocative for you to mull over. Given this government focus on fair domestic competition, on channeling growth, where is the truly disruptive energy likely to come from next in Chinese tech?
Is it going to be the big guys successfully adapting? Or will it be completely new companies that maybe thrive precisely because of this new regulatory environment?
Something to definitely keep an eye on.